we have a lot of faith and belief in God, not only in God and through His tzaddikim. It's something that we have and we have to keep on passing and transmitting on to our children. In this week's Torah portion, Yitro, we read about the Sinai revelation. God interacting clearly with the Jewish people. God says the first two commandments because the Jewish people wanted that dialogue with God. And after the first two, their ears were ringing, their souls couldn't even take it, and they were screaming, "Moses, you tell us the rest!" And so he did. The Midrash does something fascinating and says, which might be very simple to us, but look what we take from it, that if there is 10 commandments and 2 tablets, ladies and gentlemen, how many are there in each tablet? 5. 5 on this tablet and 5 on the other tablet. We know, our sages tell us, the first tablet are the laws, are a sample of the laws between God and us and God, bin Adam lamakom, to God. And the second tablet are 5 laws that are a sample between man to man, bin Adam lahaviro. Very good. The Zera Shimshon, who I have to be honest, is not the first who does this. But in all my years of learning and research on the 10 Commandments, which I've done a lot of because it's so fascinating, I've never seen what he's done to the 10 Commandments. So get ready. Many take those 2 tablets and they connect the first of each line. They connect 1 and 6. They connect 2 and 7, 3 and 8, and so on. The main one who does this connection is Rashi on a verse in Shir HaShirim, which we're not going to get into right now. But very briefly, on one interpretation, the Zera Shimshonen goes through each of these correspondences, these correlations, and gives anywhere between 3 to 5 reasons why 1 and 6 are perfectly in line and they correspond to each other. And then 2 and 6 and 3 and 7 and so on. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go through briefly because each of the commandments and its correspondence deserves its own class. But the same way the Zera Shimshon doesn't do it in too much of a lengthy way, we'll go through these concepts and correspond each one on the right tablet to the left tablet. So let's start with the first commandment. The first commandment is Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, etc. I am God, the Lord, who took you out of Egypt. We normally refer to as Anochi. I am God. It's the first one. What's the 6th commandment? The 6th commandment is do not murder. Lo tirtzach. What could the correlation, the correspondence possibly be? The Zera Shimshon gives no less than 4 reasons for why they line up with one another. The first is as follows. He says that the Talmud says, be very careful for the words of our sages. Because one who does not heed to the words of our sages is liable for death. It's a very strong thing the Talmud tells us. But it goes on to explain why. One who does not fulfill the Torah, or one who does something that the Torah prohibits, in essence, all they're doing, which is not just all they're doing, it's a really bad thing, but all they're doing, in perspective, is either foregoing a positive commandment or transgressing a negative commandment. But when one goes against the words of the sages, of the Chachamim, obviously true Chachamim, ones that go in line with what makes sense to Judaism and to the Torah and the Talmud, one who does not heed their words is liable for death. Now, what does that have to do with anything? Well, that's exactly it. If you don't listen to Chazal, to our sages, in their way to connect you to me, Anochi, to God, lo tirtzach, you will not have to be killed. If you do what you have to do, if you live your life according to the way that our sages, this is the religion we live in. The religion that we live in is passed on from generation to generation, from teacher to student and teacher to student and teacher to student. If you fulfill the will of God through the eyes of the sages, Anochi, lo tirtzach, you will not have to be put to death. It's a little severe, but that's his first interpretation. Next one. He says, the Talmud in Masechet Berachot teaches us that one who prays without concentration, you're doing lip service, you're doing autopilot. You are likened to a body without a soul. What's the definition of a body without a soul?
A gilgal?
A dead body. A dead person. A body without a soul is finished. So now that makes a lot of sense. When you speak to God, when you make blessings, when you say Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu, who are you talking to? Understand what you're saying. Imagine I walk up to you and I go, you look at me, Rabbi Liberator, are you okay? Are you low on sleep? Maybe. Did you take some substance?
Did Purim come early?
Is Purim coming around? Is everything okay? Can you imagine speaking to a king? What about an interviewer? You're going to a new job. Hello? Are you talking to me? So if we talk to God, know who you're speaking to. Concentrate. Pay attention. Anochi. And then, lo tirtzach, you won't be compared to a dead body. Because prayer without concentration is tantamount to a body without a soul. That's a second interpretation. His third, equally as fascinating, he says, Moses goes up and he says, I'll be back in 40 days. He gives them the 10 commandments and he says, God's summoning me to the top of the mountain for 40 days to give me the complete Torah. This was a sample. These 10 are by no means more important than the rest. And I'm going to bring the whole package down. 40 days. What happened? They miscalculated by 12 hours. Ribono shel olam. And Erev Rav was heating it up. Look, he's not back, he's not back, he's not back, he's not back. The mixed multitude. And they said, I knew it was all a fake. It was a lie. The imposter. Let's make our own God.
This is Korach.
No, it's not Korach. This is the mixed multitude. And Hur, the son of Miriam, in effect, the nephew of Moshe Rabbeinu, he opposes them. He says, no, wait for him. He's coming. They killed him on the spot. They murdered him. They turned to Aaron, Moses' brother. They tell him, make us a new God. Because this God's not for real. So Aaron thinks himself, if I say no, look what happened to my poor nephew. If I say yes, how could I say yes? I know there's God. So he thought of an amazing tactic. A tactic that if you try, you will be more successful than him at. He said, what is the most dearest thing to a human being, and specifically to a Jew? His money. He tells them, and I'm not justifying it, I'm not saying it's the right thing, but it's a fact. Okay? No, I just said it's the same for all. He says, go to your wives, go to your safes, bring me all your gold. Bring me your earrings, your necklaces, your rings, your watches, your crowns, anything you have. Bring me all your gold and I'll make you a god. Why was he doing this? He was doing this to buy time. He said, go ask a Jew for some money. Is he going to bring it? He'll be back next year. Go tell a whole nation to go bring the jewelry of their wives.
That's going to work.
This never happening. And look what happened. Look at how the Yetzer Hara was dancing around this. He turned around saying, okay, please Hashem, make these 12 hours pass quick. He turned around. They're there. They got more gold than they could have ever imagined. He didn't know what to do. He's like, just throw the gold in the fire. Just, I don't know. They throw the gold in the fire, and a golden calf comes out.
Wow, so they didn't build
Just like that.
just
They didn't fabricate. It was like that. It was the Yetzer Hara was, the evil inclination was just dancing over there. He was feeding off their doubt, feeding off their questioning.
wasn't
And
the Shem HaMeforach?
he threw, but it didn't work. It all worked against him, unfortunately. So what is the point? After all my animation,
what you did well.
the Zera Shimshon says, what did the Jewish people do? Because they killed a man, because they killed Chur, it brought them to denying God's existence. What, in essence, led them to not believing in Anochi Hashem? The fact that they killed. That's why Anochi Hashem is ut lo tirtzach. That's his third interpretation. Fourth answer for the first correlation is as follows. Lashon Hara kills 3 people. Unfortunately, we've spoken about the severity of Lashon Hara, gossip, slander. It kills the speaker, damages him, the one that they're speaking to, and who they're speaking about. We're not going to go into that because we can spend the whole class on that. But there's one more thing that happens. It also distances God from those people. And now that fits perfect. Lo tirtzach. Don't kill with your tongue. The tongue can kill. Tongue can give life, but a tongue can kill. Don't kill because you will distance Anochi, you will distance God. That's the first correlation, okay? Moving on. The second commandment is Lo yiyeh lecha Elohim acherim al panai. Don't make yourself another God. I'm the only one. What's the sixth commandment? Lo tin'af. Do not commit adultery. Don't cheat on your spouse. What's the correlation? 5 answers. Ready? For number 2 to number 6. First thing he says is, the Talmud tells us that the mere fact of living in Israel gives merit to its inhabitants not to sin in these 2 areas. One who lives in Eretz Yisrael will have the merit, an extra courage, an extra merit to not commit adultery and idolatry. It's number 1. Take it or leave it. Next.
They don't know what's going on in Israel.
Unfortunately. But imagine if there was no merit, what it would be. We have to dan the kaf zchut. We have to judge them favorably. We have to do our part. We have to help them. We have to show them the right way. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the Torah in the Ten Commandments, it says lo yelecha Elohim aherim. Now, obviously, Elohim aherim means other gods. Okay, but also aherim teaches us that for you lo yelecha another god, but aherim will. The other nations, the goyim, they will have other gods. And the Zera Shimshon says these two things, idolatry and adultery, are what define and separate Jews and goyim. The life of a goy is idolatry and adultery. It's as simple as it is. Third reason, he says that Lo yelecha Elohim acherim. Acherim also sounds like the word me'acherim, to delay. Because these two, when one worships idols and when one commits adultery, delay any blessing and success that is set out for the person who does it. A person is brought into this world and his life is set up to have only good and only success and only blessing, or a lot of it. Worship idol, delay. Not faithful, delay, and delay, and delay, and delay, and delay. Acherim is really me'acherim. Number four, and this is, I think, the most basic explanation, it's the explanation Rashi himself gives on in Shir HaShirim, is that when one commits idolatry, when they worship another god, they're cheating on God. That's ni'uf. That's adultery. That's adultery to our own God. The same way like a man or a woman is not allowed to cheat on their spouse, we as Jews are not allowed to cheat on God. And that's a clear relation. Number five, one who commits adultery, chas v'shalom, Chazal tell us, the children that come out of that relationship will commit idolatry. And again, the perfect correlation. Going on to the third pair. The third commandment of Lo tisa et Shem Elokecha lashav. Don't mention God's name in vain. Along with Lo tignov, which is the seventh of the commandments. Not mentioning Hashem's name in vain, and don't steal. So how do we put that together? Zera Shimshon gives three different answers. He starts off by saying it's a double-edged sword. If one steals, Lo tignov, if one steals, they're going to come and put themselves in a situation where they're going to have to mention God's name in vain. They're going to have to be summoned to court and swear falsely, swear in God's name that they didn't steal. And then backward the other way. One who mentions God's name in vain brings poverty onto himself. God forbid. We don't say, I swear to, we don't say that. I swear in the name of, we don't say that. When we do that, what we're doing is we're bringing poverty onto ourselves. When someone's poor, what do they have to do to live? Steal! So don't mention God's name in vain, so you won't have to come to steal. And the third relation he gives is when one makes a blessing and eats food. They are now taking something which wasn't his, and now it's his. If someone eats without making a blessing, the Talmud says that's stealing. If one makes a blessing and doesn't pay attention to when he's mentioning God's name, he's mentioning it in vain, that's stealing too. What do you do? I know too many people that's the clearest you'll ever hear them when they do it out loud. Imagine when it's under their breath. That's like stealing, because you're mentioning God's name in vain. And now you're not really acquiring that food when you eat it. Fourth set. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. Shabbat. With Lo Ta'aneh Brecha Et Shaker. Don't testify falsely in court to your fellow. How do they match up? First reason, the Zera Shimshon says. What does a Jew do when they keep Shabbat? They are testifying that God, the Almighty, the one and only, created the world we live in 6 days and ceased from creation on the seventh. If one does not keep Shabbat, he says, he's now not able to testify for God. When we come and we keep Shabbat, we're testifying for God. If we don't keep Shabbat, we are bearing false witness to God, the creator of the world and of mankind.
Meaning you lied.
You are lying. You are testifying falsely. Us as the Jewish nation who accepted upon us being the chosen nation, we're testifying falsely. That's number one. Number two, he says, the greatest way to atone for falsehood and for slander, for Lashon Hara, is by learning Torah. And he says, deeper than that, the Torah that is studied on Shabbat has the greatest potential to fix any falsehood that a person has in their life. Specifically on Shabbat. We know Shabbat learning is 1,000 times the potency. If you learn 1 hour on Shabbat, it's as if you learned 1 hour on Wednesday, 1,000 hours on Wednesday night. 1 hour on Shabbat is 1,000 Wednesday nights. We only do 50 Wednesday nights a year. That's 20 years of Zera Shimshon class.
Better be here at 4:30.
Better be here from 4:30 to 5:30 every Shabbat afternoon. That's 20 years of Wednesday nights. That's a clear relation. Number three, one who lives with emet and truth sustains the world. One who lives with falsehood and lies and does not keep to the truth is in essence destroying the world. A person cannot testify for Shabbat and the creation of the world if they lie. The Mishnah tells us something fascinating. In the Mishnaic time, there were people who were literate and there were ignorant people. Literate and ignorant. The ignorant people were called Am Haaretz, the people of the land. They were not too intellectual. They were Jewish, but they were not too intellectual. The Mishnah says that Am Haaretz would be very careful not to lie on Shabbat. Even if they were not so diligent during the week, Shabbat, no falsehood would exit their mouths. And again, we see the correlation between Shabbat and bearing false witness. Now, for honoring our parents, this is the 5th commandment, and the last commandment of not being jealous, of not coveting our fellow. I'm going to mix up the order the Zera Shimshon gives it because I want to save the best for last, in my opinion. First, he says, what's the blessing that the Torah gives? The merit the Torah gives when you honor your father and your mother? Longevity, a long life. The Talmud tells us that a person's life is set from when they're born. The amount of years they'll live. 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, whatever it is. It's set from then. Okay? If you do good, you'll live it. If not, you'll be just diminished. There's no way to add on more years to what was set. Okay, so for argument's sake, it's probably set high, and unfortunately, a long life just keeps on getting chipped away. The correlation Zera Shimshon says is, don't look at the wicked people who has sinned in their lives and chipped away lost years of their life, and don't covet those years and say, I want those years, even if you're righteous. Don't be jealous and say, give me those years of those who are not worthy of it. Okay? It's a little bit up there, but that's his first explanation. I'm skipping a second, I'll say that in a moment. His third explanation to the correspondence between the 5th and the 10th plague is as follows. Honor is in the heart. What does that mean? He's very brief, the Zera Shimshon. That means you can do things for others. Doesn't mean you honor and respect them. If your boss tells you to do something and you want to keep your job, you do it! But inside you might hate him, you might despise him, you might be cursing him. Honor's in the heart. It's not in the deeds. It does have to be carried out in the deeds as well, but it's in the heart. Jealousy and envy is also in the heart. Yes, it could also play out in action, but it's in the heart. It's in our minds. It's in our feelings. And that's the correlation. Now listen to the best for last. This is fascinating. The Talmud tells us of people who anticipate the passing of the current/past generation. People anticipate and they're looking forward to the old people dying, literally. Which is a horrible thing. But why do they do so? Well, they are the famous ones. They are the powerful ones. They're the rich ones. They decide what's going on. If they would not be here, we would be there. That's the rationale. The Zera Shimshon says, this mindset, unfortunately, is sometimes also found from children to parents. And you look at me and you say, how can that be? I'll tell you how scary and sad it could be. Today, we'll use Abraham and Isaac, father and son, right? Today, Abraham is the owner, the founder, the CEO, the controller of the family business. And Isaac, the child, is looking at Abraham and saying, you're doing stuff in the old-fashioned way, Papa. Let go. Let me do it my way. Modernize, digitalize, marketing, social media. And Abe's looking at him and saying, I've made millions of dollars over the past decades. You're going to tell me how to run a business? And deep down, whether it's verbal or not, there's this strife. Papa, retire. The kid wants to be the controller. The kid wants to make more money. The kid wants his name on the CEO business card. The Torah is teaching us, don't be foolish and do that. Don't be foolish and disrespect and dishonor your parents because you want to take their place. Even for selfish reasons, it's not worth it. Why? Because if you honor them and respect them, you will have a long life and you will have your time to shine. Don't try to take away someone else's position or someone else's shine just because you want it. Let your father, let your mother keep it. Honor them, respect them for it. You will have your time to be the boss, to be making the money, to be basking in the fame and glory, making the family decisions. A woman might anticipate, God forbid, her mother to pass away so she can be the matriarch of the family. She's the oldest woman in the family now. It's an honor. God forbid. Never make that mistake. Kabed et avicha. You will have a long life. And never, never envy. You won't need to envy it because you will be blessed with longevity and have that time for yourself to shine. May the holy words of the Zera Shimshon bless us.
Amen.
With all these correlations and all these different insights that he gave to us in the correspondence between these 10 commandments. At your Shabbat table this week, if you have the book, you're able to refer back to it. Share these amazing words. Share these correspondences between the 10 commandments. Take one reason for each one. Don't give all 4 or all 5. Take one for each one and share and enlighten, inspire your children, your spouses, your friends, your family.